Welcome back, everybody. I am Stefan ADIKA. You're an artist on record, your ultimate intimate conversation with your favorite artist. If it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell to be notified so you don't miss any other episodes. Today, we have the legend Tommy Chong of Cheech and Chong. He's in the house, and this is a short clip of our 2-hour conversation. If you'd like to see the whole episode, unedited, uncut, join us in Patreon for an all-access VIP backstage pass where you can find that episode and other episodes unedited and uncut. But in the meantime, now don't touch that dial. Check out how professional I get, Tommy. Bam. Now I'm going to share something about you. We're going to go back now in Tommy Chong's life. You were discovered, people don't know this, but Diana Ross had something to do with a band that you were in. And a little clip for the kids. Let's check this out. Does your mama know about me?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Now, tell me the story about Bobby Tiller and the Vancouvers. Does your mama know about me? Did you get discovered by Diana Ross? What's the story on this?
We were a club band.
Yeah.
I had a nightclub in Vancouver, Canada, and actually we needed a drummer, and so we called Bobby. We'd met Bobby. We'd been on the road, trying to get gigs down in the States. We were down here illegally, of course. And we met Bobby, and we called Bobby up looking for a drummer. And Bobby said, "Well, I can play drums." And so he came up, and Bobby just, he was just game for anything new. And Bobby was this phenomenal singer, vocalist that was a legend amongst about everybody that heard him. But he was also a little bit Wilson Pickett kind of crazy, the kind of guy that would, well, like he did. We hired him not only to play drums, but we had to buy a set of drums for him. And so he came up, and he was a hustler. So and from Brooklyn, by the way.
Oh, was he from Brooklyn?
Yeah, originally.
Oh, wow.
And he remember Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers?
Of course.
He was one of the doo-wop groups that were on the street singing, and he was with a group called the Pastels.
Yeah.
And there's a song called "Been So Long," it hit the hip rate. It hit thing. Bobby was a ringer. It was the guys at the Pastels were supposed to be all from the Air Force, and they entered a contest. And they brought Bobby in as a ringer, So Bobby didn't get any credit for singing the lead on "Been So Long," but you can still get it. It's really a cool song, and Bob, you can hear Bobby's voice. Anyway, Bobby came up to Vancouver, and so the bass player and I sang background with him, Wes Henderson and myself, and. At the time, first time I ever did coke, I did a tiny little bit of coke, and I got inspired, and I wrote a poem called "Does Your Mama Know About Me?" And at the same time, Bobby was dealing with Tom Baird. He was like the musical genius, Now Tom knew who I was, but he never had any respect for me because I was never that good of a guitar player, or a musician. But I could write poetry. So when Tom saw my poem, he says, "Hey, do you mind if I put this to music?" I said, "No, not at all." So he did, and he wrote the bridge to it. And next thing I know, we get Diana Ross comes to town with the Supremes, and they come down to our after hours club, and she hears the group. And I didn't meet her. She just was in there and the way the Lady Di would do it. She'd come in, heard the group, called Barry, said, "Barry, you got to hear these guys." And so Barry, it was a booty call too. You got to hear these guys, and while you're here, you can we'll get it on. We'll get it on. And so Barry Gordy came to Vancouver, heard us, loved us, signed us right away, and then forgot about us. Wow. And but we met Barry, and we as far as we were concerned, we're with Motown.
Yeah.
And so we gigged our way across the country. We started in Vancouver, then we went to Seattle, and then we went from Seattle right to Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and then from Los Angeles we flew right to Detroit, and we recorded the song, and it did pretty good. You know, it got up there on the R&B charts.
Yeah.
And it put us on the same, because Diana Ross recorded it herself. You know, she's got a good version of it. A very clean version. And that started my career with Motown, you know, basically as the guitar player, not a recording guy. You know, I was at the very low end of the totem pole with Motown. But we traveled around. We were on the road with Diana Ross. We had opened for her, but our group we were way ahead of our time in so many ways. I had been going to improv groups like the Committee and Second City, and they were just starting out. The Committee was so new; they were in San Francisco, and they were had these great actors. Like, for instance, in Chicago, I saw Peter Boyle when he was part of the improv group
Wow.
in Seattle. I mean, in where it was, Chicago. And then I got interested in improvisational acting. I loved it. And then I got fired from Motown.
You got fired from Motown.
Yeah, because I had to get a green card, and the road manager, you know the kind of road managers that Motown had, they had no idea what a green card was. You know, all they knew was that I had to take off. I had to miss a Saturday, a gig, to do the green card thing, and he told me, he said, if you miss a gig, you're fired. Well, I had to miss a gig, and of course I got fired. And then when I got fired, we were in Detroit, and Barry Gordy had us playing with backing up Chris Clark. You know, Bobby had got separated. He went on a solo career, and so there wasn't really much future in Motown. And I had seen my girlfriend, and I had my girlfriend on the road with me at the time. She was pregnant, and so she was with baby. She actually had the baby by then.
Oh, really?
And that was kind of funny too, because but when we went on to do the gig I got fired from, Barry Gordy was another one of Barry Gordy's girlfriends, and so Barry kind of flew there with us. Barry always felt like the Vancouvers was his band, you know.
Yeah.
And so and so my girlfriend and I, you know, I was married too with another family, and so my girlfriend and the baby and I were on the plane, because we were late, and they kind of held up the plane for us. And Barry's going around saying, whose baby is this? And everybody knew, but no one wanted to answer. You know? And so he forgot about it. We got on the plane, and so now I got my girlfriend at the motel with the baby, and I have to go back to Detroit from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It wasn't a big flight, you know, but it was still a ways. And so when I got to Detroit, I did my green card thing, you know, got my green card actually. And so I'm ready to go back to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and there's no ticket for me. Oh, and the bass player is with me, by the way. I thought it would be insurance, you know, he's not going to fire both of us. But so I took the bass player with me, and I was getting him a green card, which he never really wanted, and he never got it. But I got my green card, and I got back to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and the bass player there again, you know, it was all serendipity. He never said a word to me. He knew that I was fired, but because there was no ticket for me, and then they gave me a ticket, and so I get back to the gig, and it was one of those gigs where, you know, everybody's sitting there ready to go, and I walk up with my guitar, and the guy says, Johnny Bristow. He was a singer, but he turned, road manager. He says, "I told you, if you miss a gig, you're fired. So you're fired." And I looked at the rest of the band. Now they could have said, "Well, he's fired. I'm fired,"
Yeah.
But they never. And to their credit, there was serendipity. I was meant to leave.
It was meant. It was meant.
It was meant to be. So,
Yeah.
so I go back to the motel, and my girlfriend Shelby, she goes, "Oh, you're home early." I says, "I got fired," and she goes, "Oh, that's good. That band sucked. Come to bed. Come to bed." And we've been together ever since.
That come to bed. That band. Did you get to go and record in the actual Motown Detroit studio where the Funk Brothers did all that stuff?
I was there, but I was never good enough a musician to record. And unfortunately, they wouldn't let me really put my 2 cents in. I was just treated like a guy that can't play guitar good enough to record. That's the way they treated me, which is like a non-entity. And as far as lyricists goes, lyricists don't get any credit, any kind of things, respect. But it was okay. No, I was in the studio. I was in,
the legendary little studio.
And if you listen to that recording of our recording, it was a lousy mix. The voices are really mixed down. And Tom Barrett, he liked the strings and French horns and all that. And that's all up in front,
Yeah.
But it was okay because I think it actually even helped the song become popular, because the message of the song was so strong. And it was the first time that Motown went in that direction. And then right after that, Love Child and Papa Was Rolling Stone and all the socially awareness songs came out of that. And no, there's only two people in Motown that really respected me. And one was Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy was the sweetest can be. Because when he Berry found out that I got fired. Now, see, Johnny Bristow had no right to fire anybody. He's a road manager. You fire anybody, that's up to Berry Gordy. And because Berry Gordy was paying for that green card, that I missed the gig for. And so Berry called me up himself, and he said, there's been a horrible mistake. You're not fired, and and I told him, I said, I'm going to stay fired, Berry. And I said, I want to become a Berry Gordy Jr. I don't want to work for one.
You said that, huh?
Yeah, and he said, I respect that. He said, I respect that. And so he gave me a nice severance. It gave me enough to get out to California with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
and the baby.
And the baby. Whose baby is it?
Yeah, whose baby? Whose baby is this?
What the hell is this? There's a baby.
and it's a white baby. It's a white baby. So there was it wasn't his. It wasn't Barry's. Oh man, my Motown years, we had
I love it.
laughs.
The Motown years, I'm a big fan of it. So
that's how I got into comedy, because our band, especially Bobby is crazy.
Well, he went on to work with Michael Jackson. Is that true? He got to work with the Jacksons?
No, we discovered Michael Jackson.
Tell me this. Yeah.
We the Vancouvers, we were opening Michael, the Jackson 5 plus Johnny had won a contest in Gary, Indiana, and the winner of the contest, they're going to open for Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers and Jerry Butler at the Regal Theater in Chicago. And so we show up and we checked out the opening act, and everybody was floored. This little guy has got a voice that's just kills. I mean, just above everybody, and he can dance better than anybody on the stage. Then he was like 8, 9 years old when we met him. Little guy, he used to pull a little Coke stand, carton over, and he'd stand up there, and he'd in the mirror, he's trying to fix his little dude. So cute. Michael Jackson was a little adult when I met him. He acted more like growing up than anybody I'd ever met.
Really?
Because he was so cool. He was the way he looked and the way he moved and the way he acted. But he was still a kid. And so he'd come around and Bobby entertained him more than anything, And so when we heard him, Bobby said to Joe Jackson, says, well, come on, you guys got to come stay with me in Detroit, and I'll get you signed with Motown. And so Joe Jackson says, great, that's what they're looking for. And so they came, the whole family, all the guys anyway, and they stayed at Bobby's. Bobby had an apartment in Detroit, stayed in the apartment. And my first wife, Maxine, and my two daughters, Ray Dawn and Robbie, they were also staying with Bobby at the same time, because I had been deported from Detroit, because the Canadians that we were working with, they didn't know enough to lie, and they said that we were with Motown. So the immigration came by and they kicked us all out to Windsor, Ontario. And so I ended up, my wife, but the whose baby is that? Well, the word got back to Vancouver. And so next thing you know, I got my wife and daughters there. And they moved in just in time for me to get fired. And for me, now they're settled in Detroit, with Bobby and everybody, Maxine and that. And in fact, Maxine, she really liked Detroit. She was a black girl from Calgary originally, and Detroit and Vancouver, but she never really lived in a black community before.
Mm-hmm.
And so she really liked Detroit for that. But we all ended up in Los Angeles. And so when I got fired from Motown, I took my girlfriend and we rented we had a drive-away car, where you take someone's car from Detroit and drive it to back to LA, or actually Palm Springs, where I ended up with it. So then when I quit Motown, and moved to California, then I was going to just be a songwriter, and I tried my best, but
that was the plan, to be a songwriter. No comedy in your head.
No comedy whatsoever. So what happened? We had nightclubs where Bobby and I started playing, and so my brother called, he's, hey, I need you back here, because the clubs were starting to flounder a bit. So I went back, and by that time we had two clubs. We had a strip club, a strip bar, a titty bar, and an after hours club. Well, the after hours club was doing okay. It was doing good, but the titty bar needed help. So I went to work in the titty bar as a light man, and then I realized that these strippers, they look so beautiful when they walk in with their street clothes, but once they put on all the garb and that, then they all look like sluts,
Yeah.
And so I formed an improv group called the City Works with the doorman, who's a very funny guy named Dave. And, Dave and I, and then the girls, and then we had a straight man named Rick Lands, and he'd play all the cop parts, And so we had an improv club going really good, and then we got so popular that we got front page news, and they took a picture of Rick, our straight man, with the strippers on either side with their titties kind of in his ear, and Rick's wife thought he was doing community theater. She had no idea he was in an improv group with strippers, and so she fired him. Rick called me up and said, "Oh man, you can't make it." and so a mutual friend of the show and that, he said, I know a guy would be perfect for the show. He works for me. He's a writer on this hippie magazine. So that's when I met Cheech.
That's where Cheech enters.
Yeah, that Cheech came in, and then he wasn't Cheech. He was Richard, and so we didn't know he had a nickname even. He was just Richard Marin, and we didn't know what he was. We did he wouldn't letting anybody know he was Mexican, and so
really.
Yeah, he was because he was up dodging the draft from L.A. in Canada. That's why he was in Canada, and he was he was doing okay, and then the improv group got so good that we ended up losing the job because we changed the crowd from a strip, the crazy guys with money, nothing but money to throw at the girls, to 300 theater goers who enjoyed the humor, but they would count their change and sip a little glass of wine, And so my brother said, we're losing money, so we have to go back to the stripping. And so that was the end of the group. So Cheech and I decided we'll stay together and we'll do music because Cheech was a singer, as, among other things. And so we put a band together, but we decided to do a little humor first. But we went out at the Battle of the Bands and we never played a note. We just did humor for about an hour.
Yeah.
And of course we won the Battle of the Bands. We're the most popular, but that we never played a note. And so that night, that's when I found out Cheech had a nickname, because we're trying to think of name of our group, Richard and Tommy, no, and Marin and Chong, no. I said, don't you have a nickname? He said, yeah, Cheech. And as soon as he said Cheech, it was like Cheech and Chong. It was just rolled off the lips,
Beaters. I gotta work a little more in the lyrics.
Yeah, that's heavy, man.
It's kind of like,
One. If you want to see more of this episode unedited, uncut, join us in Patreon. There's an all-access VIP backstage pass. Links are down below. And make sure you hit that bell to be notified when we do release new episodes. Until then, I'll see you all later. Who loves you, baby? We do. Now get out of here, you crazy kids.